All right. What's going on, guys? Robert Warshack here, and we're going to be taking a look at the free decks that Hearthstone is offering the new players and returning players who haven't logged in for 120 days. These decks are now been updated for Murder at Cathal Nathria. So I was actually talking to Draco Cat on the podcast, and he had mentioned that this Demon Hunter deck we're about to cover, actually a very solid Demon Hunter deck, given some of the previous Demon Hunter decks that they have provided for free. So the legendaries that they're providing is Alang, Cartuous, and Lady Syntho. These are like some of the top tier Demon Hunter legendaries. These are like, you want these in your deck if you're playing Demon Hunter. So that's already looking good for Demon Hunter. So this is definitely a more aggressive style Demon Hunter deck. This is looking like pretty much a tier, pretty much 2 Fell Demon Hunter deck. Granted, this deck does not have Jace in it, which is a pretty big deal in the later stages of the game, but they did give you these 3 legendaries, and there is some Demon Hunter decks that don't run Jace. Pretty much, if you choose to run Jace, you'd get rid of the Amalgam or something like that in the deck because you don't really need them. But the cool part about Amalgam is this card fits into basically like every other deck because he's a neutral, and tons of decks play this card. I mean, this was probably the most popular epic card to come out of Sunken City, which is the past expansion, and the fact that you get 2 of them for free in this deck means you're already slotting these bad boys into a lot of the future decks that you're going to build. So this Fell Demon Hunter deck here, while again it doesn't have Jace in the deck, this is looking like a really solid, very solid Demon Hunter deck for you guys. Scrolling down to this Druid deck here, we have Raid Boss, Onyxia, Kaz, and Wildheart Guff. These are all fantastic cards. Right now, tier 1 deck is a Celestial Druid. I don't actually know if this deck has Celestial in it because that is definitely not a very beginner-like deck. Yeah, this deck is, it's got Vandar Stormpike in it. So Vandar, he's a 4 mana, 4/4 battle cry. If this costs less than every other minion in your deck, every other minion is then reduced by 3. So this is pretty much a big Druid deck, but the weird part is there really isn't that many minions in the deck. I mean, there's Spammy, the Warder, and then you basically just have a lot of big dragons. So while I believe the Demon Hunter deck is probably better than this Druid deck, this Druid deck is going to be a lot of fun for you guys, and Wildheart Guff single-handedly is like a card that's amazing. Like a 5, like, this is probably going to get nerfed, I'm not going to lie. Wildheart Guff going to like 6 or 7 mana is definitely something I see happening in the future, but it hasn't happened yet. So if you're a Druid fan, you like big cards, you like big dragons, this deck's going to treat you pretty good. And the legendaries that it gives you, Kaz being, again, you have Raid Boss and Kaz being neutral legendaries, which means you can slot these bad boys into other decks. They're not exclusive to Druid, so if you don't want to play Druid, you know what I mean, you don't have access to these. So very solid Druid deck here for sure. Taking a look at Hunter. So Hunter is a very popular deck right now on ladder, very popular class right now on ladder. A lot of people playing it. Definitely high tier 1, if not tier 2, depending on how you build it. We have the Hydrodon, which is the new Colossal card for Hunter, very good. We have Beast Tavish, which is very good, and we have Ambassador Phelan, which is really only found in like Warrior, sometimes Rogue, but mainly in the Hunter deck to put the Colossals at the bottom. A lot of the Colossals are beasts, and then you're going to use your Harpoon Gun here to reduce them down, which is really, really good. So this is looking like your standard, maybe a little off standard, big beast Hunter, but yeah, this is pretty much what you would see a lot of players playing, maybe minus the Scribe and stuff. There's a couple cards off here, but this is, you could hit Legend with this deck. Like, this is a very solid deck. Hunter's in a really good spot right now. Granted, these decks don't have any new cards in them, it looks like. We haven't seen any new cards yet, so I'm sure some of these cards can be slotted out with some of the Murder at Cathal Nathria cards. But yeah, this Hunter deck is looking good. Like I said, they really put a lot of effort into making these free decks very viable, very competitive for you guys, and actually like doing a lot better than some of the deck recipes we've seen in the past. There has been some very questionable decks that they've given out, and they are just not good. And all the decks we've seen so far, they're decks that I would definitely play and say that they're really good.
Are you here to remind our viewers that by liking, subscribing, and commenting helps us so you can get fed and get more doggy toys? Is that what you wanted to tell them, bud? Is that true?
Looking at Mage here, we have what seems to be a big mech Mage. This was actually a very popular deck at the start of the expansion. So Cool cards, you have Belinda, which basically is a 6 mana 5/5 battlecry, draw 2 spells, swap their costs with this minion stats. So you play the Dragonfire Amulet, which is freaking huge, and you're basically going to reduce this down to 5 mana. Belinda goes to being a 10/10, and what's basically cool about this is the Dragonfire Amulet has tradable, which means you can put it back into your deck and draw an additional card if you don't want this in your hand. Most of the time, you're not going to want this in your hand because you want to use Belinda to draw it. So you have a lot of consistency there. And then the rest of the deck seems to be what would be like a standard Mech Mage deck, which is pretty popular as well. I see we have the Seafloor Gateway, so this is probably not the best thing to get with Belinda, but it still draws it. And Seafloor Gateway can win a game on the spot because it draws a mech and then reduces the mechs in your hand by 1. And then there's stuff like Mecha Shark that says after you summon a mech, deal 3 damage randomly, spin among all enemies. So that's really good. So while probably just standard Mech Mage is better than this, you are getting access to Belinda, which gives you access to building a big spell mage deck, which is, again, another very competitive deck. And then you have access to the mechs, which are also already Mech Mage as being one of the most popular decks from Diamond 5 to Legend to play. We actually played a bit of Mech Mage a couple days ago, and it felt really, really nice. So yeah, this deck's looking fine. So far, no matter what class of you pick, you can't really go wrong with any of the decks we've taken a look at. So taking a look at Paladin next, you're getting Lightforge Cariel, which is one of the best heroes in the game. You're getting Leviathan, which is, again, another really great Colossal card. And you're getting Radar Detector, which, assuming if it's running Radar Detector, this is going to be buff Mech Paladin. If you know me, I absolutely despise buff Mech Paladin just because it is a very annoying deck to play against. The deck has basically all minions. There's only 2 spells in the whole deck, Radar Detectors, as we can see here. And the only point of Radar Detectors, you just play it and then you just draw more mechs. It's just, this is a completely minion-based deck. There is no spells in the deck besides minion. Again, the deck's good. People play it. They hit legend with it. If you're a new player and I guess if you're returning and you want a very simplified, like, you just want to learn Hearthstone, play the game at its most simple, single brain celled self. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're brand new, this is the deck that you want to play. But if you want a little bit of a challenge and you want to actually get better at the game, if you're already, like, if you're new, this is a great deck, right? But if you want to get better, like you're not new anymore, you want to get better at the game, you don't play normally a deck like this. But not to say that you can't do well with it. It just wouldn't be my first pick. If you're a returning player who's played before, you know how to play, and you want to try out some new stuff, because this deck is going to get boring very, very fast. But if you're a new player, never played before, this deck's going to be great. You're going to have a blast. It's going to be easy and you're going to win games. But again, it's going to get old kind of quickly. So taking a look at Priest, this is looking like Naga Priest. So we have Zola, we have Priestess, and we have Serpent Wig. So again, in my opinion, not a lot of value here. The Priestess is something you only play in like Naga Priest or Boar Priest, which are very specific, very hard decks to play. And then Serpent Wig, again, is only found in the Naga Priest. And this is Naga Priest. And Naga Priest right now, very good deck, very powerful, probably going to get even better with the new expansion. Problem is, the deck is really hard. While the deck may seem easy, the amount of options per turn with a deck like Naga Priest or Boar Priest, there's like 5, 6, 7 options sometimes, and the correct play isn't always the most obvious play. So if you're a returning player, want a challenge, want a board-based combo deck, this is a great pick for you. The deck is good. People are bringing this to Masters tournaments. They're winning with it. People are playing it at high legends, winning with it, but it's not going to be a new player friendly deck. Not at all. If you're a new player, haven't played Hearthstone before, not sure of what you're doing, do not pick this deck. If you've hit legend before, you're coming back, you like Priest, you like tempo decks, you like combo decks, you want a challenge, this is a great deck for you. You'll do wonderful with it. Going to Rogue, Jackpot Rogue. So we've got Shadowcrafter Scabs, another really great hero card. We have Tess Greymane, which means this is going to be some sort of thief / Jackpot Rogue. And we have Maestro, which means we're playing a change your hero deck, which means there's going to be nulls in this deck as well. Right now, Jackpot Rogue is a very popular deck, very good deck, and that's because Jackpot, as we can see here, this card is a 2 mana, add 2 random spells from other classes that cost 5 or more to your hand. You play this on turn 2, and then on turn 4, let's make sure we have that card in here. Here it is, Swift Scale Trickster. It's a 4 mana 2/2 battlecry. Your next spell this turn costs 0. So this is basically a high roll super cheat deck. You go Jackpot, or you just generate some other spell through another class. through like Tooth or something like that. Then you play Trickster, and then you drop a big spell very, very early on. You continue to play those very high costing spells with stuff like Test Greymane and Shadow Step. You also, of course, have Contraband Stash, which replays 5 cards from other classes you played, which is really good. You have Queen, so you pick the Colossal. If you get any class Colossal that isn't Rogue and isn't a neutral, every time you play Stash or you play Test, you'll get Colossals. So yeah, this deck is kind of nuts. Very fun. If you like Rogue, you like what Rogue does, Jackpot Rogue is a lot of fun. Given there's, again, a lot of options with this deck sometimes, just because there's so many choices when you're discovering cards and when you're playing Reconnaissance and when to reveal your hero. Because Maestra, again, you start the game as a different class until you play a Rogue card, so you could start as a Warrior for 3 turns of the game. And then all of a sudden you have to turn back into your Rogue, and you've created some Warrior cards, and you got to use those Warrior cards to win the game with, again, stuff like Contraband Stash and Test Greymane. So you just got to make sure that you're comfortable with playing cards from other classes and know what you're doing. But yeah, Rogue, look, again, this is looking at every single deck we've covered it is a deck that you will see right now being played on ladder, give or take like 1 or 2 cards. So taking a look at Shaman, we have Brokon, again, a really fantastic hero card, very powerful. Cookie the Cook, really not like in Murloc Shaman. Yeah, you play it, but like only in Murloc Shaman would you play this. And then Flurgle, again, another Murloc card, and only found in Murloc Shaman. So let's take a look at what we see here. This is looking like the control oh, this is more aggressive. Yeah, so this is a definitely more aggressive Murloc Shaman. So a deck like this, with having mostly Murlocs, a lot of Shaman exclusive cards in here. If you like Murlocs, you like Shaman, obviously this is a great pick. Murloc Shaman is very strong right now, but this wouldn't be one of my higher recommendations just because, one, you don't have a lot of neutrals in this deck, and a lot of the epics and legendaries that you're getting, they can't really be moved into other Shaman decks, right? Like when Murloc cards really are only found in Murloc decks. You don't have a lot of wiggle room in being able to play those cards in other decks. You're kind of locked into Murlocs once you pick this deck, and then if you want to build like a control Shaman, maybe you can use some of the Murlocs, but not so much. With the Demon Hunter deck, there's a lot of flexibility of the cards to be used in other Demon Hunter decks, which I think is important if you're a newer returning player, to try to get, like, while you want the deck to be powerful, you want the cards to also be powerful to be able to be played in other decks that you're going to want to build, and not just the one that's given to you for free, right? So not so impressed with Shaman here, but still a pretty good deck. Taking a look at Warlock, we have Gigafun, or Gigafin, a good Colossal Warlock card, Sir Finley the Sea Guide, and again, Amalgam of the Deep. So this is looking like another Murloc deck. Again, would not recommend this deck. This is probably the weakest of all of the decks we've seen. If you're going to play a Murloc deck, you like Murloc, Shaman is the best way to go. While Warlock, Murloc, is a deck that you can play, it doesn't mean that you should play it. Again, the deck can win. It probably will do okay at the lower ranks, but this isn't something that you can really depend on to push you through to the higher ranks, and or have a lot of leeway into building other Warlock decks. So if you want to build like a control lock or a curse lock or a combo lock, you can't really use any of these cards to do that. Maybe Giga, but that's about it. Taking a look at Warrior, we have the Nelly, which is a Warrior Colossal card that recently got nerfed. The card is probably the worst Colossal now, so Nelly's not that great. Mr. Smite saw a lot of play when he was 6 mana. He got nerfed to 7 mana, so he doesn't see as much play anymore, and definitely took a hit there. And then we have Raid the Docks. This quest has been nerfed like twice now, and again, doesn't really see much play because the power level of all of the pirates went down because they've changed all 3 cards that you can see here on the screen. So this is looking like at first I thought it was going to be a pirate deck, but this is a combo. This is the combo Warrior with Captain Galvangar. So this is a harder deck to play for sure. It was pretty popular at one time, played at high legend, but a lot of the Warrior cards got nerfed, which means they got changed in a way that made them weaker. And this is not a deck that I would recommend for anybody to craft if you're first a returning player, a new player, or just in general. I will go over the win con, but again, you shouldn't get this deck. You play to the fronts, which your minions in your hand cost 2 less, but not less than 1. So you play 2 to the fronts, which reduce all minions in your hand by 4. Captain costs 2 mana. There should be some faceless manipulators in here. These guys will cost 1. And then you play Captain Galvin. You've definitely gained 15 armor because you're a warrior, and that's easy. So he turns into a 9/9 with charge. You go ahead and faceless manipulator him. You play Battlegrounds Master. This is a 2 mana card. You put the Captain Galvin Gar to the left, the faceless to the right, and then you attack with 9, attack again with 9 because this gives him Wind Fury, and then you can do upwards of like 40 damage or something like that. But again, I don't recommend playing this deck. It was good at one point, but not anymore. They nerfed Warrior too hard, and that's actually all the decks. So the only 3 decks that I don't recommend is the Warrior, the Warlock, and the Shaman, unless you just really, really like those decks. But yeah, all the other decks are great. The Rogue is great. Yeah, the Priest is up to you. Very difficult, but very rewarding. Paladin is going to be like brand new players. If you never played Hearthstone, Paladin is probably going to be your pick. We have the Mech Mage, which is good. We've got the Beast Hunter, which is great. We've got the Big Druid, which is going to be good. And we've got the aggressive Fell Demon Hunter, which is of course going to be good as well. So yeah, these decks are looking really good. This is probably the best set of free decks that we've seen them provide. Normally about half of them, if not more, are kind of questionable, but only 3 of them this time are questionable. So looking good, and hopefully this helped you pick out a deck for you guys, for you guys that are returning. With that, welcome back to Hearthstone. Enjoy the decks. I'm Rob, of course, and happy whatever the hell day it is.